Okay, went ahead and started the recording. This light's like in my eyeballs. Okay, hey everyone, thank you for joining us. This is part of the webinar series on practice management systems, and today we're going to be talking about Lawcus with Nicole Loughlin. And I just decided to do this series because a lot of people post about what practice management system to use. And even though some of them have tutorials on the web, I thought it would just be helpful to have people, attorneys, actually practicing attorneys within the group that are using the systems to kind of give their overview of how they're using it and what to look out for. What I know about Lawcus is they're one of the newer ones. I believe they came out, I want to say less than 2 years ago. And I remember I demoed them because I demo everything because I'm a nerd. And I liked them. The issue that I had with them was importing, that there wasn't an easy way to import all my stuff. So I just kind of, let it go. And I already have my own system anyway. But for people that are, choosing a system and are starting from scratch, they really have done a lot, in my opinion, in a really short amount of time. And they seem to be really responsive to their customers in terms of responding to needs of attorneys and what they need. And that's one good thing about Lawcus is I think that they are responsive as opposed to some other practice management systems that just kind of, look, we're charging you a bunch of money and you're going to take it and you're going to like it. So, so we have Nicole Loughlin, who will introduce herself and take it away.
Thank you, Regina. My name is Nicole Loughlin. My law firm is Loughlin Law PA. I am a solo practitioner. I have some support staff and virtual assistants, but I'm the only attorney. I'm currently just about 9 months pregnant, and I started with Lawcus at the end of December of 2020. So kind of throughout my entire pregnancy, I've had Lawcus, and I would say that it has revolutionized my practice in a very short amount of time. But I strategically chose Lawcus because I knew that, and I won't name any names, but I knew that the practice management software that I was using it didn't allow me to scale the way I wanted to using technology. I wanted to use both technology and support staff and delegation at the same time. I want the people who I'm paying to be doing things that I need actual people to do, and I want my technology to do things that technology can do. So that's how I got here. I don't consider myself an expert or even really all that sophisticated in using the software, but I've shown a lot of people my setup and people seem to like it. So, and my name gets thrown around when people are talking about Lawcus, so I'm happy to share. I've set up some test pipelines to show you. I can't share everything like my dashboard and my lead section because it's got confidential information, but I created a test pipeline that mirrors what my leads pipeline looks like, and I can show you all of my automations and kind of the back end, how I set up my settings and that kind of thing. So I am going to share my screen and get right into it. Hopefully I share the right screen. Let's see. Can you all see Lawcus?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. So I'm going to be facing this way now. So this is one of my pipelines, and it's my estate planning pipeline. I have 3 distinct practice areas. I do estate planning, probate, and personal injury. I would say my primary focus day to day is on estate planning and probate, and I take some really good solid personal injury cases throughout the year. So I've built out my estate planning and probate the most, and as things come up in personal injury, my system is that when something comes up, I take 2 or 3 times as long as I need to set up the automation so that in the future I don't have to do it ever again. That came up recently in the probate when the judge ordered us to have a bond, which is something I've done in the past, but I never set up a system for it. And I completely automated emails to the bonds company, emails to the client, tasks for my staff, billing processes, everything. So that's kind of how I got here. But before I get into the really cool stuff, I want to show you just some of the backend things in settings. And again, I'm going to try to be really careful not to share anything I'm not supposed to. But if you go to your settings, you can see there are tons of firm settings and apps and integrations. And one of the reasons why I love Lawcus is because of the open API. And I utilize Zapier. Things that are built into Lawcus, they have their own scheduler built in. I actually don't use it because I had been using Acuity before, and I had already really developed my Acuity and my Zaps for Acuity and active campaigns. So I didn't change anything there. But for new people starting who don't have an automatic scheduler, that's a really nice feature. One thing I carried over, and custom fields are really important. If you're not using custom fields, you're really underutilizing your software. Even my prior software had custom fields, but you need it for your dynamic merge in your document automation and also in your intake forms. So what I like about Lawcus is they have not only custom fields, but also relation types. And so you can, anything you can think of that you need in a pleading or you need somebody to fill out in an intake form, you can create a custom field for that. And I won't get too much into it because that's pretty much the same across the board. But what I like is you can have custom groups for each practice area that will automatically populate when you create that particular matter. So I've linked all of these custom fields to these different practice types. And that's really helpful. And I also have these incorporated into my intake forms so that when somebody fills out an intake form for, let's say, probate administration, if they already have, they won't have everything, but if they have the date of death, the place of death, the decedent social security number, and they put that in my intake form, they're creating my file for me. So I never want me or my staff to have to input things that we don't have to. So we try to capture as much of that on the front end as we possibly can. And I'll tell you more about how I grab that stuff in the intake process. But the other type is relation types. And these are contacts. So when I have an intake form where I'm trying to gather information about if it's a PI claim and they already have been contacted by an adjuster, I want them to fill out as much of that contact information as they possibly can. Again, having them create my file for me from the outset is huge. Let me go back here. Okay. Another thing I like that actually it took me a while to fill this out is the activities categories. And this is if you do flat fee billing, which I know a lot of us do in this group, you can list out your fees. And sorry, it looks a little glitchy here, but there's some things, obviously, I don't have, a set fee on that. But for my fees in estate planning and probate, I can set these categories. And when I create an invoice, which I'll show you really quickly, if I go to my test matter and I go to create an invoice and I go to the flat fee section, I can type in estate planning package, basic, simple, no less will and testament, and I can save that flat fee right there, save it, and then I can also send the email or get an invoice link for that.
Do they have their own payment system or are they paying you externally?
I have it integrated with LawPay, which I had for a long time before, and the LawPay subscription that I had at my other practice management, it was included, and they sort of grandfathered me in when I switched over to Lawcus. So I continue to have the, I guess, free LawPay. I still pay my fees on every credit card, but so there's pipeline templates. So you can manage your pipelines. Right now, these are all my pipelines. I created some test ones, but these are the main ones that I use. Let me go back. And then other different things. And again, this is kind of the boring stuff, but you really need to set up this to be able to get into your intake forms and your automations. You can set up defaults regarding your practice areas. You can set reminders for invoices. The client portal is really cool. Like everything from the live preview to the right is what the client is going to see in the client portal. So you can see they can make payments, upload docs, send us a secure message. There's quick links there, a little bit about us, all that good stuff. I really like the client portal and I use it almost exclusively, unless I have somebody who's just really not tech savvy, but I still send them the invite, and my welcome package has instructions and all of that.
Nicole, sorry, do you know, can you put a Decision Vault link? I know Lawcus has its own intake, but can you put a Decision Vault link in that space that you were just showing?
I haven't used Decision Vault yet because I'm using ForTrust for my drafting, and I don't think that that it's set up yet. I know that ForTrust has their cloud version that they're releasing. And so when that comes down, I'm definitely going to revamp my intake forms and whatever I need to do that integration. But I can't think off the top of my head who is using it, but there is a Lawcus group for estate planners, and there's been some talk about Decision Vault in there.
And Arianna put in the chat that you can add to custom quick links. So I've always said that people get really like excited about integrations, and I'm less excited because I don't honestly want everything to integrate together, but you can MacGyver it in a pretty easy way. So anytime you have a link to anything, it always can be embedded in these workflows on the client portal webpage and the quick links, like she said. So there's a way to kind of stitch it together with whatever other system that you're using, even if they don't have that. But because they're open API, I think you could do it. You could just hire a programmer to sort of link everything together. And I think that's one of the biggest benefits of Lawcus is their open API.
Yeah. So I'll just show you a couple other things. I heavily try to tag.
Oh gosh, this makes me so excited.
Yeah. I try to tag my files as best I can. You can get really granular with the tagging, and then you can also tag contacts as well. So every contact, every person that reaches out to my firm is going to get a newsletter tag and either potential client or change over to client. And I don't know if I'm syncing that properly yet with Active Campaign, but I do some things with Active Campaign through Acuity and Lawcus and Mailbox Power. So I kind of try to make it so that everything can communicate with each other at some point if it's not already doing it. I'm always like thinking of the future and scale and how I can use stuff. So even if these tags aren't doing anything for me right now, eventually they will be able to, and I'll be able to pull data and that kind of thing. So that's kind of like the basics. Like I would say that the first day I set up all of my relationships and my custom fields, everything that I can think of. And then you get into kind of the really fun stuff, which is the automations. And I've done quite a few automations. I set up some test ones.
This is next level.
Yeah. I mean, but I have 3 distinct practice areas. So some of it is, to be fair, some of it is repeated. Like I have an internal closing stage for every practice area that runs sort of similarly. And I'll show you why that's important, because the Kanban board pipelines make it so easy to move clients in and out of each stage of your case. So I'll show you that. But just to kind of give you an overview here, there's intake forms. I have intake forms specific for each practice area that give me details. Then I have a new client intake form. This is a really short intake form. I've copied it for my web form too, that is just collecting single line text from the potential client with their name, last name, contact info, how they heard about us, but most importantly, what type of case. And that's I'll show you the automation there, but my system for leads is that, again, I don't want me or my staff creating new leads in my system. I want that done automatically. So I do it in 2 ways. either through Acuity, somebody has gone to my website and actually signed up, picked an appointment. We have some screening process now. I'm not busy enough where I want to remove that link yet, where we can cancel appointments and call potential clients. But for right now, I have a link for Acuity for a discovery call, and I have this intake form. And my answering service will either schedule an appointment or fill out this intake form. And again, I have this cloned as a web contact form as well. So if somebody's on my website, same thing, they can either schedule an appointment via Acuity or fill out that quick form.
And
what that
I was just going to point out, another way to use those forms is how I use them. So I am at the point where I want people to go away. So I don't have any links on my website and everybody has to call, and the answering service actually fills out this form. So you could just, once you create this intake form, your answering service can just fill out the form as if they were the client, and it goes directly into your system that way. And because we get like 30 calls a day, so there's just no way that I can just have those people jump on my calendar. So this goes directly to me. I use a different intake system, but it looks very similar to this, where I can immediately scan in like 10 seconds and see if I'm interested in it, and I can decline. And there's a whole bunch of workflows based off of this, which this can do. I can just decline immediately, or I can refer them, which is a click of a button. I can just tell them I don't handle that type of case, just all very, very quickly. So I can just get rid of people very, very, very quickly, or move them along in the pipeline to my people, where they call them back, do another pre-screening, and then they get scheduled for an intake. So that's just another way that you can use it, is to send the link to the answering service or to your paralegal or anybody else to fill out the information while they're on the call with the client.
Right. And so everybody who's actually taken that step to reach out to us, I want them in my prospects category, okay, because they're warmer leads. So the workflow that is attached to that intake form is this one. And so you can see, once that new client intake form is submitted, the system's going to create a lead. Then it's going to send an email to my staff telling them to update the lead, make sure the correct practice area is selected, that it's tagged appropriately. Then she's going to call the lead, determine the referral source, and look at all the tasks that are generated in Lawcus. And then I have like a little task in here to send a thank you card to the referral source. I use handwritten for that. And I have a template for that. And then immediately, so anybody who is filling out this form, they opted not to schedule an appointment, and I'm not as busy as Regina. So I send them a text message immediately saying, hey, if you want to schedule an appointment, here's a link to do it. And then I have the logic condition based on the practice area that they selected in that form. So this is largely the same, but different for each practice area. So the first thing it's going to do is generate an intake form. This may be premature for some people, but for me, it works. I want potential clients to get an intake form before their appointment, because if we can push them, and we have a system to try to push them to fill out the more in-depth intake form, and they fill it out before the appointment, that 15-minute discovery call that is 15 minutes on their end, but I block out 45 minutes to an hour on my end, can easily convert to an initial consultation, which I love, because then I only have to meet the person once in the beginning, and then I can do what I need to do. And if we need to have a review session for estate planning, we can do that later on. But we're not building in multiple attorney-client meetings when they're unnecessary. So I like to send them the intake form. It also tells me before I log in for a discovery call whether or not it's going to be more of a 15-minute sales pitch, or it's going to be an initial consult that it's very easy to convert. So I generate the intake form for each particular practice area, and once that link is generated, an email gets sent to the potential client, thanking them for reaching out to us, giving them a link to schedule, and then the link to the intake form. I tell them that if they fill that out, it's, it's a free discovery call. So if they want to get the most bang for $0, they can fill out that intake form and we can talk about their specific situation rather than general information. It's been working really great for me. I've got a great conversion rate right now on, especially, depending on if it's somebody who's calling from the internet or somebody who's coming from a referral source. So, and then I have built in here a mini drip that has, you can see time delays built in. So, the day after they call, they're going to get another email that says, we do a complimentary case review. You reached out to us yesterday. Here's a link. And it goes from there. Some of these emails will have reviews that are specific to the practice area. And, I think it goes on for a few weeks. And they're also simultaneously zapped over to active campaigns. So they're going to get like my pretty welcome, here's things that I do in my firm. And I try to stagger the emails here and the emails in active campaigns so that they're not totally inundated. But so there's like a mini drip and active campaign that everybody, referral sources, anybody who reaches out to me gets on that little mini drip. And then this drip, which is trying to push people to schedule an appointment.
And this follow-up is key. First, I cannot believe that I've never seen anyone build out a campaign to this degree. And Carrie wanted to know, I feel like there should have been a how in the hell did you do this? But how in the long did it take you to set all this up? And did you do all this yourself? She's asking.
Yes. Well, I did it all myself. And I honestly, I really don't feel like it's that, like, I feel like I've done the bare minimum. If you're the type of attorney who has had like a Word document on your computer that has like typical canned emails or correspondence, or you have like a kind of internal workflow that you use, it's really easy to turn that into something like this. Now, the leads process, I came up with that right when I like my head was spinning when I signed up with Lawcus, and I was like, starting January 1st, because I got Lawcus like in that 2-week period where nobody's working in December. So I set up the leads portion because I never had any CRM before, but I had a sort of internal process that I did that was all in my head. And that's what I created this particular workflow, which I have not made too many changes to since December when I created it. So I can show you what the leads pipeline looks like. I can't show you my actual leads pipeline, but I can show you what it looks like, what it would look like. You would have client cards. So anybody who fills out that intake form is going to drop in the prospect category, and they're going to stay there, and we're going to keep calling them and following up with them, and they're going to be on that drip until they move into initial consultation. I created a dummy category that if somebody schedules an acuity appointment and they're not already in prospect, I had some filters set up in Zapier. They're going to go into the acuity category. And the reason I drop them there is because I want to physically move the card over into initial consultation, because the act of moving a client card to the next stage triggers the automations the way that I have them set up. So if I go to, it's hard for me to find stuff. They're going to make folders for this, which I'm excited about. But if I move a lead to initial consultation, it triggers this whole new set of automations. So again, it's going to search for the client. It's going to create some tasks for my office that now that we're meeting with somebody, we're going to create a SharePoint file for them. We're going to calendar an appointment reminder call. I still like, even though I am totally adverse to talking on the phone, I like my staff to pick up the phone and call people so that they're, it's like when you have a doctor's appointment coming up and they remind you. They're still going to get their reminders through Acuity, but this is just another added kind of touch before they meet with us. And then based on practice area, we're going to again send them the intake form. We're going to send them an email that says, do this before our meeting, and just encouraging them to fill out the intake form. And then there's a little delay, and they're going to get a text message with the link to the intake form to fill that out. So, that's basically the leads process. Once they go through the initial consultation.
I'm going to just say, before you
things.
move on to that part, I was going to say one thing about the the intake part is follow-up is super, super, super key. Unless you're like inundated with calls, having the automatic text messages, which pretty much can have anything in them, is, I mean, that just made a huge difference in my firm because you can put anything in there. So I have a whole bunch of canned ones. I have an automatic one that goes out. It's a text message that says, if we can help you, somebody will call you. And we put everybody on a delay because we don't take any calls live. So our text message says, we'll get back to you within a day. If we're able to help you, we'll let you know. If not, we'll send you a text. It has my little digital card attached to it. It explains what I do. It's got links to my fees because honestly, that kind of scares some people off, which is great. So it's fewer people have to call back. And then I think I send one more follow-up. That's all I do. And that's only because I have a ton of calls. If I had fewer calls, I definitely would have a longer pipeline like she does. I mean, you can send things like every 2 or 3 days, like emails, text messages, like here's a list of reviews of people that say that Nicole is awesome and it helps me with my estate planning. I mean, there's just so many things that you can pack in there. And if you stay top of mind, it's going to help just grow your kind of referral database and everything. I had that all in there and I actually started taking steps out because I actually at some point wanted people to stop calling me. But if you don't have as many calls right now, this will definitely increase the number of retentions that you have, the number of consultations that you get, and you're not even doing anything. And clients, honestly, I think some of them aren't crazy and they know that you're not doing it, but honestly, people think I'm sending them these text messages personally because I get a whole bunch of responses say thank you so much and I'll look forward to your call, and I'm like, okay.
It's one of two. They either think you're doing it and they're super impressed, or they know you're not doing it and they're also super impressed because they're like, wow, you really have your stuff together.
Exactly. Or I've had some people saying, I know this is a bot, and I'm like, no, I'm not. But yeah, you can respond to them or not, but the point is, like, they start to feel invested in your firm from the very beginning because they get text messages, they get emails, everything is branded, like it, and it makes you look like honestly you have your shit together. So
yeah,
I love it.
Exactly. So yeah, so, and I don't know if I answered the question, how long did it take me? So the leads portion of it, I set up right away, and I set up my practice area specific intake forms right away. Everything else, I set up the stages in my pipelines. And then as I was going, I was building those out. So I'm not going to lie, in January, things were a little sloppy. I was okay with that because I knew coming off of a 2-week break in December that I was, trying to get this set up, and done is better than perfect, even though I'm very type A, and I just wanted it to start working. So I did not hold on to my other practice management and try to do 2 things at once. I immediately moved everything over here. I paid for the migration through Lawcus, which was really good money that I spent because I could focus on this other, higher level stuff for me on how my practice was going to work. I won't do too much more.
Hey, Lawcus, build it out. Like if you decide that you don't want to do it, won't they build it out for you if you pay them?
Yeah, well, I'll let Arianna answer that, but I think that firstly, they have unlimited support. So they knew me by first name within 2 weeks of me, hiring them. But yes, I think they have relationships with developers, and then they themselves have, an hourly rate where they can help. I don't know how much of this they're doing on a regular basis because they spend so much time developing and rolling out new features, which is amazing. But there's a couple options. I know they have, Arianna says, yes, we can build it out for you. They charge $100 an hour. Yeah. And then there's attorneys who use Lawcus who have a boot camp as well. And they'll train people on, they have a challenge where it's called Level Up Lawyer. They'll train people on the basics. And then they have a implementation boot camp where they'll kind of fold your hand through setting up your first 5 or so automations. So there's a few options. So the last thing I'll talk about in the lead section, which is going to be even better soon because Lawcus is rolling out, I think, e-signing templates. It's in beta right now, but right now I have all my contracts coded. And so when I am done with an initial consultation, I'm going to move them to sign agreement. I'm going to send an email to them, thanking them, letting them know that they're going to be getting a link to sign the contract shortly. And then depending on the practice area, I also put a task in here to update the matter, because that's where, after I'm done with the consult, I want to tag the file appropriately. And that makes a big difference in my workflows later on. Like if it's a probate case and it's a summary administration, my workflow branches at the draft stage between summary and formal administration, and it's based on the tagging. So I put a little reminder in here for me to tag it appropriately. And then I create a document, and I have contracts for every practice area. And then I have tasks to send them out for e-signature, and then a time delay with a text message that says, hey, did you sign your agreement yet? And then an email that goes out, again, reminding them to sign the agreement. And then from there, I have, and I'll show you just this one last thing in leads. I have a no-show column where if people did not show up, it will spit out an email to them. Right now, I kind of give a second chance, but people who don't show up are starting to be dead to me, so I may remove this later. But I have a no-show column, and then I have a follow-up column, which I don't have any automations built out into it. It's just kind of a place where I can stick people. If they've been in sign agreement for over a week or 2 weeks, I'm going to move them to follow up, and that's going to trigger my client relations person to kind of nudge them and find out what's going on. If it's an estate planning matter or a probate matter, estate planning for sure. I had somebody a week ago sign up after a year being in my system. So estate planning is one of those areas where you don't lose people after a week, but probate and personal injury for sure. Like there's definitely a time limit on how long you can expect these people to be in this category. What I can't show you is
I was going to say for PI, it's so important because they will just call someone else. So you have to have a tight follow up on, you're talking to them, they're getting texts, they're getting emails, you're signing them up that day, because the next person they call will sign them up that day. I'm divorced, so I am never hey, you need to divorce this heifer today. I do the slow play. But you just have to tailor it for your practice. So I'm not following up with people a week, because it's weird, honestly, a week or two later saying, hey, you remember when you said you hated your ex, you still want to divorce them? It's totally different for probate, where you're gonna die. So you're gonna need some estate planning, and people aren't offended if you reach out to them. But and I think most people wouldn't be in divorce, but there really are times where you reach out to someone and they've reconciled and their spouse sees it on their phone, and it's a problem. So I don't proactively reach out, but that is only because of the practice area that I have. So you just kind of have to think about your ideal client and what your practice area is and what the customer demands. And PI, you got to go super quick.
Yeah. And for us in this follow-up stage, because we haven't broken the leads pipeline down into practice area, for us, we have a follow-up script that my client relations person is going to use to follow up with people. And so that's sort of across the board. And we have some little customizations in that based on the practice area, but we're not sending out a ton of emails here. I mean, most of the people who have been in follow-up are already on our newsletter campaign, and they've already been in the prospect drip. So we've met with them. So we're just soft, following up with them. One thing you can't see here is that you can assign, based on practice area, potential fee for each client or potential client. So you can see at any given time how much you have sitting in prospect, how much you have sitting in initial consult, sign agreement. And that really puts things into perspective when you can see the money right in front of you. And you can do that by default, or you can manually add the amount. But if you know that a divorce client is going to bring in $10,000, on your flat fee, every single one that comes in, and you start to see that pile up, then, I think for staff, it makes a difference on, who they're calling. So anyway, that's sort of the end of how I handle leads. But I'll move into some of the cooler stuff because like one of the things, so I've only done one email template and it's for Google reviews because they just released this a few months ago. But part of my internal closing for every file is getting, it has to do with getting reviews. And so there's now in Lawcus, you can create these kind of fancy, pretty emails like you would see in MailChimp or ActiveCampaign. So I've done one of them. I like having this big button that they can press. They also see it in my closing letter, which is a pretty like Canva PDF. And then they also get text messages. And then a week later, we call them and ask them for reviews. So we are hitting people up frequently after we close a case, and we even calendar out 6 months and annual recurring follow-ups for people, not just to check in, but if they haven't left a review yet, we have a script that kind of gauges, how they feel about us and whether or not we're going to continue pursuing them. So I told you about the intake forms. One really cool thing that I'll show you that you can work into different practice areas is I have a review form for estate plans. So when I send out, so basically I've met with a client, they filled out the intake form. I have everything I need to draft an estate plan. I draft the estate plan, I upload it to the client portal, share it with them, and I move that client to a review stage. Once they get in that review stage, they're going to get a link to this, and I'll show you it. And I'll show you it like how you slide the client over. But once they get this link to the review form, it's got 3 questions, and it says, I either approve my documents or I need to make changes. And I stole this from April Harris Jackson, who gave me the idea, which I love. It's brilliant. So basically, I'm not following up with clients anymore on whether or not they approve their estate plans. I have a drip built in to follow up with them every single week, and they get this link. And once they say they approve them, it automatically moves the matter to a different stage. And if they need to make changes, it moves them to another stage. So once they fill out this form, they're out of the review stage and they're either into revisions or they're into a mail signing stage. So that's really cool. I'll show you that workflow. So I just have to find it because this is a fairly new one. And okay, you're I don't know where it is, but I'll show you in practice. So in my estate planning, when I'm in the draft category, I have a bunch of tasks to invoice the client, share the client portal with them. They get an automatic email when they convert with a welcome package, and the welcome package is specific for each practice area. And then I have tasks for me, like my tasks are 3 tasks: draft the estate plan, upload it, share it with the client, move them to the review stage, which you can see you just slide over, but for whatever reason on sharing my screen, it just like glitched out on me. Well, you can see some of the other workflows I've done, but let me just try to move it because it's not the program. I think it's me. Yeah, I'm doing something wrong. But you slide the matter card into the next stage and it's going to generate the automatic email. And what I like about Lawcus is you can see inside the matter card, you can see everything in the information pane. Like you can leave notes here and they'll show up. If you have the email integrations with Gmail or Microsoft, I use Microsoft, your emails will show up here. Everything that you have, basically anything you've done on the file will show up here. But it also shows your different automations too. So you can see I've sent myself a lot of review forms and things like that. You can see where the tasks are, files that have been uploaded, your interactions, flat fees, invoices, transactions. This is just a text matter. So I'm going to try one more time to move this over. I don't know why it's not working. It's definitely not Lawcus though. So don't blame Lawcus, it's me. I feel like it has something to do with my screen sharing, but In any event, when I move it over, it's going to go into this review category. So when I put somebody into review, it's going to generate that intake form link that I showed you and send them an email that says, we've uploaded your drafts. Here's the review form. If you want to schedule a review session, use this link to get on my calendar. And if you have any issues with the portal, let me know. Because at this stage, people are still kind of early on in the process. And then I have a bunch of tasks here for me. But most importantly, I have built in a kind of a drip for the review emails. So every week, they're going to get an email that says, we're following up on the drafts that we sent you. I did this because I have some people who will pay. I take my full fee up front for estate planning. I do the drafts within 2 weeks, and I have people who will sit on them for 6 months. And so I don't want people sitting in my pipeline for 6 months. They've been paid, or they've paid me and they've gotten their drafts. So I am building this out to kind of follow up with them. And prior to doing this, I was manually following up with people just ever so often, like no rhyme or reason. There's exit rules set up so that when they're no longer in the review stage, they're not going to get those follow-up emails. But once they select, like I showed you, once they select that they've approved or they need revisions, the workflow or that particular intake form workflow is going to move them to the next category. So if they're in the revision section, it's going to trigger some tasks for me. One of the tasks being apply workflow, revise drafts uploaded. Okay, that workflow, let me see if I can apply it in this matter. You can manually apply any of these workflows. Like some workflows are automatic, but I also have a bunch of workflows that I manually apply just because anytime I've had to write an email that I don't want to ever do again, I create like a manual workflow. So here I would write revisions, revised estate planning drafts are uploaded. So I'm going to apply this workflow. And then in the background, it's going to apply and it's going to start tasking me. I might have to refresh it for a second so we can see the tasks that generate. Let's see. Well, it takes a minute for that to work in the background. But if you go back to that particular workflow, revised estate planning drafts uploaded, this is what it's going to do. It's going to generate another link to the intake form so that they can now look at their revised drafts and say that either they approve them or not. And then it's going to send, it's got another drip, set up to follow up with them on the revised drafts. Ultimately, they're going to end up in the mail sign category, which I'm pretty much all virtual. So I'm not doing a lot of in-person signings. So once they get to this mail sign category, I have tasks set up to, first thanking them for approving their drafts and letting them know that they're either going to receive them by USPS or we are going to contact them to schedule a signing ceremony. And then I have different tasks set up for that. And, there's so many possibilities. And one thing I haven't even done anything with yet is this how are we doing workflow that I'm going to, or intake form that I'm going to start implementing in all my different workflows. And it's basically going to be sent out at different stages of the case where I'm going to just say, how are we doing? I'm going to text it to them and they're going to respond with the emoji. And then based on that response, I have a workflow attached that's going to say, if they, at whatever stage we sent this, picked 5, we're going to immediately send them a text message to Google to leave a review. If they picked 4, we're going to send them an email and say, we'd really prefer via 5. So what can we do? And then if it's a 1 through 3, like that to me is a problem. And so I'm going to send them that email again saying, how can we approve? But I'm also going to send myself an email that says, call this client ASAP.
So there's a
And I'm
question,
gonna,
and I apologize, I'm gonna mispronounce I'll just say Mr. Singh has a question. You can tell me your first name and I'll pronounce it correctly, but the question, oh, wait, I think I responded to the wrong person. No, Kimberly asked, are the emails being automatically sent by Lawcus or is a task being created? So you can see in her workflow, if it says task, then that's tasking to a firm member to do something manually. If it says
Right.
email, that is an automatic email that's going out. So this is all happening behind the scenes. So what did Mr. Singh ask, or did I just randomly message him for no reason? Okay, I did. So no, that was Kimberly's question.
okay. Yeah, so all of these emails that have gone out have been sent through, like Lawcus sent them automatically, but they'll show up in my Outlook sent email. So these emails have my signature on them, which is an HTML signature. I told you, recently released HTML emails. So I can use, like, I have a signature program that updates everybody on my team their signature automatically. And so I have an HTML link for my signature. So all of these emails go out, and you can, when you're doing these emails, like, I'll just pick one, send the email. Like, you can customize it here, and you can select to attach your default signature, which is in settings. And you can change, like, the font and all of that. There's some of those that were newer features for me, because in the beginning I was sending out just like very plain text emails. So I feel like clients could tell initially what was actually coming from me and what was coming from Lawcus. But since they released those email update, everything looks like it's coming directly from me, and I can copy a staff member on it, or I can make it come from a staff member if I wanted to. But I like the goal of this for me is not that I'm lazy and I never do anything specific for a client, because somebody asked me that, is like, so is everything like just generic canned? And to some degree, yes, everything is, because I don't need to be very specific about, hey, we just uploaded something for you to review, please go review it. But what it does is it frees me up to answer higher level questions that come in. So I don't have tasks swimming in my head, saying, hey, a creditor claim came in for a probate. Did you calendar it? Did you send an email to the client? Do they know they have 2 weeks to respond, or whatever the case may be? Like, all that, if we get a creditor claim that comes in, we apply this workflow. And it's a heavy task workflow. So I didn't go into a lot of my task heavy workflows here, but there are emails to the client that let the client know that this is what you need to know when a creditor claim comes in. That's the same every single time a creditor claim comes in. So I don't need to be specific there. That email will prompt a response from the client, though, and I'll be able to respond to that because all of this other stuff just happened in the background.
And there's nothing wrong with having some canned stuff. Like, we didn't go to law school and study for the bar and incur $8 billion in student loans to send emails every 3 days. Did you read the documents? Did you read the documents? Did you read the documents? That is not what we're getting paid for. We're getting paid for our brain and for, in her case, drafting estate planning documents. And that's what we're getting paid for. So that's what she's doing. And then the rest of this is, so when you're automating, it frees you up to take more cases if that's what you want, or to just spend less time working, which is my ultimate goal in life. So what I've done is I've just made my rate sky high. I take like 2 or 3 cases a month and automate them. And I get paid to do the big stuff, to show up in court, to think about how to strategize about the divorce case and asset division. But I'm not going to be emailing you personally, hey, we sent you discovery, this is what you need to do to fill it out. It's all automated. And the other thing I was going to say is email signatures. Think of every email as an opportunity to both educate your client and to market. So my email signature it's got my email, it's got my phone, it has, if I'm going to be going on vacation, it's in there. So every single email that my client gets from me, like a month before I'm on vacation, says Regina's on vacation from December 1st to December 15th. Here's a link to pay. Here's a link to this. So every email that they're getting, has links that help them out. And then also, as she mentioned, you can have these workflows. So as soon as a client signs on, you can send them more information. I send a Canva link that has a client guide that just kind of walks them through the process, but you can also do it at different stages in the process. Like she said, when they get a creditor letter, don't panic, this is what happens. And another reason why it's helpful is to avoid bar complaints. People complain about my lawyer doesn't talk to me enough. I don't talk to any damn buddy, and no one gives a shit because they get information. The key is not that they're not hearing my voice. The key is that they're getting information from us in a timely manner, and we're explaining things to them. So if something is filed and I know that they're not going to know what it is, we have canned emails that says, we just uploaded this. This is what is happening. This is what you need to do, or this is not something that you need to worry about. So if the client is constantly getting information from your firm with these workflows, canned or not, they're not going to have a reason to say, I never talked to my lawyer and I don't know what's going on. So it just releases that pressure and lets us do what we really would love our clients to do, which is kind of leave us alone and let us just do our jobs.
Yeah, exactly. And I tell people too, especially for probates, is that if you want somebody who's going to do like some extra hand holding, I can do that because I'm not spending all my time telling them the basics. Like they get a probate guide in the beginning. When they're appointed personal representative, they get a guide that tells them what their responsibilities are. They get emails that say, you need to check in with your CPA, you need to do this, this is what we need to close the estate. But everything else throughout the process, I just have people who are mourning and they want to send me an email to say, am I on track? Did I do this right? Things like that. And I can dedicate more time to that because I'm not doing all of like my legal obligations. All of that's running in the background, so I can give more personal attention. But somebody asked if I can demonstrate the document automation. So if you go into the matter card and you go into files and you do document from template, you can choose any of the documents that you've coded. I haven't coded everything, but like the basics. And even actually my client welcome letter, I don't use this one anymore because I have a Canva letter that I use, but I'll just use this one as an example. Let's see, actually I'll
That
do
was
this
really quick if it generated it that quickly, actually.
Yeah, it does.
Oh, that's great. That's nice.
Yeah, so I don't know, can you see the Word document on my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So actually, I probably haven't filled out all of my details in Lawcus for it to generate here, but it would generate here. And if there was a spouse, it would put the spouse there too. And then it's got all of the matter information up here. And then it's got my letter to them. But this is old. I don't send a client welcome letter like this anymore. But I have, what's really cool is like in a PI case, we have to send out so many letters initially to adjusters, witness letters, or sometimes we have pre-suit drop letters, things like that. And one of the big things is with the dynamic merge fields in PI, I used to in my other practice management, I would have to create a custom field for every single type of medical provider. If it was a chiropractor, orthopedist, it would be orthopedist 1, orthopedist 2, chiropractor 1, pain management 1, like that. Well, right now I can just have a relationship type for medical provider, and it won't work on this file because I don't have it built out with medical providers. But if I'm doing, let's see, a records request, what would normally happen is down here, it would say, oh, look, you've got 3 or 4 medical providers. Which one do you want this one to go to? And then you would be able to pick which medical provider and it would generate that document. So that's kind of a really cool feature with the dynamic merge, but I just don't have this file set up for it. But yeah, so, and that's right now how I'm doing my contracts is through this document generation. But like I said, I know I can see that there's there's something in beta right now for e-sign templates. So I'm probably going to move all of my contracts to that section so that will even streamline my intake process even further. I'm not there yet. I think I really have showed you everything, other than the actual intake forms themselves, which they're also very cool. And they have conditional logic and things like that, where you can, direct it to go to a certain page based on an answer. So that's really cool. For PI, I have treatment status update. It's similar to the review or the estate planning review. And I just, every few weeks, I want to say, in terms of treatment, I'm still treating regularly, I'm still treating, but not regularly, I'm done, or I'm not treating because I don't feel like it. And each one of those answers is attached to a different automation. I don't know if I've actually built it out yet. I may have, let's see.
Can you send mail and file documents directly within Lawcus? I'm not sure.
Okay. No, but we use Docsmit or Case Mail to send mail, certified mail, especially in probate. We have to send certified mail a lot in PI. So nobody in my office is physically mailing anything. We're always using Docsmit or something else. The only thing that we can't get around, and because my staff is like all over the place, like my law clerk lives in Italy, my VAs live in the Philippines, and I have 4 staff members, but none of them are like nearby. I have a local office that will get my mail, scan my mail to me, answer my phones for me, not new client phones, but like regular phones. So anyway, when there is a document like a death certificate that has to be mailed to the court, I'm still doing that. I haven't figured out a way to totally remove myself from that process, but I'm working on it. Were there any other questions on here that I missed?
I have a question, actually. The task, can you go to tasks, or will that show us stuff that we're not supposed to see?
Yeah, I think it will show you information, but I can show you. Let me go back to this test matter.
You create a task there. I can't remember how customizable the tasks are in terms of like this stage. Like if you wanted to create a task.
Yeah, you could definitely create it. I typically don't. I don't create tasks because a lot of my tasks generate all at once, but you could add a task. Let me see. Let's see. Call client. Okay. I don't know how to, let's see what that does. Okay, it creates that task, and then you can add stuff to it here.
So you can assign it to whatever, and then you can add tags to it, and then reminder, and then subtasks. Okay.
So I have weekly and daily task tags set up for things that I want my staff to check on every week. So those are automatic tasks. But quite frankly, because I have so many tasks generate at once, sometimes it's tiered based on like different things. But a lot of the time when we're converting a file, it's going to generate a lot of tasks. So my team isn't so task centric. We're not looking at tasks every day. We're more following the matters. And because you can't see it here because I didn't create like a ton of test matters for you. But if I'm in probate or estate planning or PI, you're going to know where all of your cases are and where the bottlenecks are, and where I would like to see bottlenecks and where I can, automate more follow-ups is like when we're awaiting client signatures. When we're awaiting orders, that's out of our hands, right? Inventory creditor period. I know this is a 3-month period. Anybody in here is stuck for 3 months minimum. Distribution. This is more when I get involved and it's toward the end of the case to make sure that the client is doing what they need to be doing in terms of distribution, and that we've, created the court documents that we need to. The internal closing, I'll show you that briefly because this is also really cool. Maybe people will want to do something similar. Anytime we have a case that moves to internal closing, we create tasks to invoice them. I send a closing letter to the client, letting them know that it's over. And we have our Canva closing letter, and then I have a resource that I attach. Then in about an hour, I send them or send my staff an email to create some calendar entries. One of them is I want them to follow up on reviews in about a week. And the reason I wait a week is because in Zapier, I have set up, which I may be able to show you. Yes. So in Zapier, I have set up a Zap that will go from Lawcus to banner season, which is mailbox power. And basically what that's going to do is trigger a client appreciation package that's going to go out to the client that has a branded water bottle and a card, and it takes about a week to get to them. So if they're going to get right away email from me with the Canva thing asking for a review, then they get the button email asking for a review, they get the text message asking for a review, then they get a gift from me, and a week, once they get that gift, they get a call from my office, asking them, a few questions before we say, hey, would you leave us a review, with a little more pressure. And that's pretty much it. But the calendar entries is important because we want to set up. I only started doing that this year, setting up 6-month check-ins and annual check-ins that are recurring.
So I have a question about the previous pipelines. I don't know if you or Arianna can answer it. When you were moving stuff around along the pipelines, you said you can look for how long that people are in each pipeline. Is there a way to see on a dashboard and in a report for average how long a case has been in a particular pipeline column? Or
I'll let Arianna answer that, because that's one data piece that I haven't been on yet. If it's not already a possibility, I'm sure that the possibility is there. But in the dashboard, which I can't show you,
right,
there's a lot of metrics that you can follow, and a lot of them are regarding your leads, how much money you have sitting in the pipeline, what your conversion rate is, who didn't hire you, why they didn't hire you. So you can get very granular there. You can set your firm goal in terms of finances, and you can see what you need to be, where you need to be at daily, weekly, monthly to get to that goal. You get a kind of bird's eye view of your tasks and your calendar and things like that. So the dashboard is really cool. But I don't know about time in each section of the pipeline. So I'll let Arianna answer that if she's there.
Thank you, Nicole. If you can't set a filter for that, then I'm not sure that you can see that, but I will definitely check with my boss and make sure to get back to you guys on that. But I don't believe you can see how long you've been working on a case just from the dashboard.
Okay. Yay. Yeah. I mean, from the beginning to now, Lawcus has made so many improvements, and honestly, it takes a lot to impress me. And your build out is pretty effing impressive. So if it's impressive to me, it's probably flat out scary to other people. So if you are terrified by what you have seen, and you probably should be, then you can throw money at the problem. But I don't know how much it is. $100 an hour sounds reasonable to me. But once the stuff is set up and it's running like clockwork, you're going to think that you should have spent 3 times as much, because it's just, it's 100% worth it once you have this automation in place. And again, it depends what your goals are. My goal is to work not a lot. So that's my goal. And the more automations I have, then the only time that I'm spending is time that I went to law school to do. And I feel like it should be that way. So Nicole has dropped some information in the chat, which is a discount, because I know people love discounts. And when I upload the video, I'll put that in the comments as well as in the actual Facebook post. So I think you actually might have to email this to me, Nicole, because for some reason, or just Facebook, okay. I can't copy and paste it from here. But it's discount. So this actually seriously has me thinking about Lawcus, and the only thing holding me back is like my firm screaming at me because I've changed systems so many times. And I'm using Monday.com, which is not a traditional practice management system, but I pretty much had to hijack it together because the traditional ones didn't work. So when Lawcus came out, I saw that they were actually doing everything. They were doing the intake. They did workflows really, really well. They did pipelines really well. And some other systems do some of that, but none of them do them really, really well. So it was tempting, and it's still tempting actually.
Yeah, I mean, I like your philosophy to not have everything totally integrated, and I definitely don't. I mean, I didn't even show you the stuff that you can do in Lawcus. Like if you wanted to have the internal scheduler and, you know, all of that set up, you can definitely do that. But I like my active campaign. So I'm not using a ton of the HTML emails in Lawcus because I do that in active campaign, and I love my Acuity setup and it's really cheap. And I love Zapier, so that, you know, I don't have to have everything in Lawcus, but if you wanted your calendar to be connected and live and, you know, die by your calendar in Lawcus, you could in all of your tasks. But I like SharePoint and Microsoft, and I like my other, you know, programs that I use. But for case management and lead management, this is like everything I need.
Awesome. Does anybody else have any other questions? All right, so I'm going to stop the recording.